All right. Let's see. I think it's working now. Thank God. All right. Let's give it a minute to get everyone in again. I think it works. I'm not going to use my AirPods. I feel like my AirPods were causing the problem for some reason. So I'm just going to try to talk loud because I'm now in my MacBook sound. So sorry about that. I have no clue what's going on. Never had that before, but I'll just do it like this. Let's give it a minute to have people get in again. I think people are pouring in already. Working. Sound okay so far? Fuck yeah. All right, let's hope it keeps working because it also worked previously. The sound's not going to get ideal because I'm not using my my AirPods or a mic, but just my MacBook sound. But I'll try to talk loud so you guys can hear me properly. So finally, let's get into things. Sorry about the delay there, but beautiful, guys. Beautiful, man. This is the play we have been looking for since ever since here, right? Since Friday the 3rd of January, I was laying out this plan for the first time, or the 6th of January, sorry, on Monday. We can see that it's playing out almost too beautifully. Where is it? I just posted it. So right here, right, this was on the stream on Monday, Monday, 6th of January. We were saying we were looking at this play. I've laid out this play extensively, right? Extensively. I've been talking about this play for the last 1 or 2 weeks now, where I've laid out why I think this was likely to happen. Once again, I would really urge you to check out this stream if you want to really understand why is this happening. But obviously on your minds, the question is now, okay, what's going to happen next? But so far playing out beautifully. I mean, look at that accuracy. This accuracy is pretty nice, pretty crazy. And once again, I know a lot of people didn't see it coming, but this is not a weird play at all. We'll put it in next to it right here. Let me show you that. I can just do it like this, actually. That's better. Here we just lay them down next to each other, and you can see how beautiful price follows this play right here. I mean, absolutely stunning. Of course, it went a little higher, but the main idea was always and has always been a deviation of this Christmas range, followed by a move back down towards the lows. In this same stream, I mentioned that I do believe both ranges need to get their lows hit. So I basically said two things. I said, okay, I believe this range high or range low, sorry, just to recap where we came from, right? To understand where we're going, it's important to understand where we came from. This is the thing I always mentioned. And I said we came from the range high. Now we front run the range low. It is my belief that we are next up going to see this range low and not the range high. And then I went on to say, but we also have a lower time frame range, and you can see that there right now we're in a rotation towards the upside, right? So this is where we come here on Friday, where I said, okay, right now we are going to probably see a rotation to the upside, and the play I was looking at is for a deviation of that range. And this one I laid out extensively as well in the Discord. I've been talking about it. I mean, let's check it out. And then I would want to see a sweep. And then what I said is that I'm confident we will see 90K. We haven't hit 90K yet, but we're damn close, 94K. So if you ask me if we're going to hit 90K or we're going to go higher or lower, I do believe we're going lower, because that's, as we'll get to in a bit, this is not the end yet of my plan, what I was looking for. And, it's just awesome to see price going down when you're ready for it and when you're expecting it. Like this whole 2 weeks, I've been. Let me just find one other post. This one was also beautiful, right? The fractal stopped working. This fractal, which I also predicted would happen because it always happens like this. Here I said, now that the fractal is becoming more obvious, more people are catching on and posting about it. This is why soon price will stop following the fractal and do something no one expects. We went over this, why fractals stop working. So I'm not going to dive into that too much. But here, this is something I posted on a while ago, right here. On where was that? Also on January 6th. So after the stream, what I said was, I posted this on Twitter as well as Discord. Here's a scenario I'm looking at, explaining about today's live stream. So there was a deviation. And then I said it could happen from that higher supply as well. So that's the supply we rejected from. But in general, the idea is simply a deviation above the Christmas range, followed by a fake retest, followed by a reclaim of the range. If the latter happens, so the reclaim of the range, I'm pretty confident price will head to 90K. So that's what's happening now, right? And now we had and why was I confident that that would happen? The reason I was confident is because simply this range low had not been hit, right? So we already hit 90K. Actually, this was the main target I was looking at, the range low, for the very thing I said at the start. Simple range dynamics, right? We come from range high. Next up, you're looking for range low. This is very, very, very clearly a range. I've been saying that since here. We're in the sideways range, right? I posted when we broke down from this, I said we're now transitioning from an upward sloping channel towards a sideways consolidation. It's actually also a very educational post to look at, if I can still find it. But that's where I first mentioned. That's all me predicting that one. Let us see where it is. I don't think I can find it now. Oh no, here it was. So this post is also worth reading, but basically what I said there, this was the first time where I was saying price is currently transitioning from an upward sloping consolidation into a sideways consolidation, which means we're looking at a normal distribution to form, right? So this is when we knew, and when was that? On December 21st is when we knew, okay, price is now going to start ranging sideways, right? We had been going upwards until then, but this was the moment where price started ranging sideways. So that was, once again, let me check, December 21st. So here is when we said, okay, price will, oh, that's the wrong one. Price will start ranging sideways. And what I said then is, okay, so naturally what you would now expect is this volume gap to be filled. Give the volume thing a minute to load. So this volume gap to be filled, which has since happened, right? Since it has happened, this volume gap is completely gone. And what I said here is that you're looking at a normal distribution, or where is it? You're looking at a normal distribution to form right here. So you're looking at a normal distribution to form. Very simply put, this simply means that statistically it's most likely put in the most volume at the mean and volumes to gradually decrease the further we move away from the point of control. Look at that, beautiful normal distribution, right? So this is what we were looking for, and this is why I said price needs to spend some time here. So everything is playing out exactly as predicted. Everything's playing out very nicely. We have a sideways consolidation, and the sideways consolidation is simply a range, right? Very simple range with a range high and a range low, and that's how we play it. Now the next question is, what are we gonna do next? And the answer is that most likely, very likely, we're gonna go lower, and we're gonna go lower for longer. And it's going to be good, man. It's good. It's good for the continuation of the bull run. It's not the top. At least I don't believe it is the top. I'm not treating it as the top. I'm very happy to see this because I was waiting for this, because I do believe this is going to be like the last proper buy opportunity we're going to have in this bull run. And I don't think we're in a hurry. So last Monday on the stream, I said, if we reach those lows and we go beneath it, I do not expect it to be a fast SFP. I expect us to spend 1 or 2 weeks below the range low before we continue up. This is still what I expect. I do not expect price to simply SFP from here and go up, right? I said this on last stream. I said this will not happen. I said what will most likely happen is that we're going to put in a low somewhere around here. And then what will happen is we spend some time below it, and then this happens, and then we go up. This is still my belief. I discussed this last week on stream. I don't see any reason why it would be any different, because price is, if anything, just confirming the bias, right? It is keeping on behaving the way you would expect it to. Right now, it's taking out those equal lows, which is, beautifully what you would expect. So I was saying that these equal lows need to get taken out, and these equal lows need to get taken out. And I said that equal lows like that do not get taken out, how do you call that, superficially or very briefly most of the time, right? You want to see that taken out with force, guys. So that means time and distance. Time is something people often forget. When you have a big level like this and you want to put in a proper bottom, you want to have market makers load up on their positions. To load up on their positions, market makers need liquidity. Where is the liquidity? Well, obviously, the main liquidity now resides below this right here, which is an enormous amount of liquidity. But then people think, okay, well, then we can do this, and then, market makers have loaded up on liquidity. No, that's not how it works. Market makers need not only price, they need also time to load up on liquidity, right? So that's why it makes more sense to spend some time below here, 1 or 2 weeks, which is what I've been saying for for a while already, that if we break this level, it is going to be probably 1 or 2 weeks below it, and then we'll go up. So that's still what I'm expecting. And if anything, it is lining up beautifully with the area I was looking at. So as you know, I'm looking at a low around the 25th of January. So after the Trump inauguration. And this is maybe also a good time to stand still on the importance of adaptability. I think 2 months ago, I mentioned that, I think everything is still looking good for a high to be put in at the Trump inauguration. But then 2 or 3 weeks ago, I said, okay, well, when I did my analysis, I said, okay, I'm not so sure about that. It was here on the 6th of January. I changed that bias, right? Even though we were at the highs of a range, what I said was, it is no longer likely. It is no longer likely because of, watch that stream. There was a whole bunch of reasoning behind it, high time frame to low time frame, where I said, okay, I don't think it's no longer likely. In fact, what it's shaping up as is that it's much more likely that price is going to put in a low around the Trump inauguration. And, the range is part of that, but there's more that went into it. I honestly, really, if you haven't seen this January 6th live stream, you should watch it, at least the first 30 minutes, because it will show you exactly why this is happening. Because I laid it out in detail in advance of my reasoning, why I thought it would happen. But anyway, I changed my bias there and said, no, okay, even though price was going higher, right? So normally people say, well, price is going up, they change the bias to higher. What I did was I changed my bias to say, okay, we're probably going to put in a low around inauguration. It seems more probable at the moment. So right now, everything is lining up as the perfect storm. Because if you have the Trump inauguration right here, I expect personally the low to be put in a little bit after. And I also mentioned, as you know, that I think we need to spend 1 or 2 weeks below 90K. I don't know exactly how far that is, but I know that this is not yet the bottom, most likely, right? There's obviously no certainties, but I'm pretty confident. And if we check right now, how long do we have until the 25th? Look at that, 12 days. 12 days, man, I tell you. Everything is lining up like the perfect storm. So if you have 12 days, and what I said is, okay, we need 1 or 2 weeks of movement below this level, then everything right now is just lining up absolutely beautifully. So I think it's awesome what's happening. I'm definitely going to wait a little bit longer with buying, because my main buys, I wanted to load up on some more Ethereum and Doge. And what I said last week is that I am waiting for sub 90K. The reason is the following. A, I think it's the most likely scenario. B, I'm already well allocated. So for me, it's like, it's not like I have the majority of my portfolio in fiat and I still have to allocate that somehow. No, it's like a very small minority, just some extra. So for me, it's like either I get the very best buy opportunity, and if not, it's fine as well, and I'll just ride with whatever I have. But it seems now that the market are indeed blessing us with the very, very best buying opportunity, because I do believe price will go lower. So I think, if price would go up from here, many would see that as a SFP of this level, or possibly even this level. I guess this is an important level to look at, because I know retail will be looking at it. Yeah, so this is important, because I already know what people are thinking. You already know what people are thinking. People are now looking at this and are waiting for the SFP. They're waiting for the SFP. They're seeing this small reaction. I can tell you right now that people are longing this, right? People are longing this because they're expecting the SFP. They're like, oh, we SFP'd the lows and we're going to go up from here. While not impossible, it is highly improbable, because, as I mentioned earlier, price needs to spend some more time below this level to see for market makers to fill their positions. Usually, this is just how it goes. Not always, right? The exception does not disprove the rule, but usually this is how it goes. And what usually happens with these kind of levels is that people are now too eager to long, which has been the case for a while now, right? You have to understand the environment you are in. And it is right here, people are too eager to long. They're too eager to long. Every long people take Every long people take here, 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 they all have the same target. Here, they all have the same targets. And all of them have been stopped out. And they will keep getting stopped out until price is really done retracing. And price is, in my opinion, not retracing yet. So even if you get a bounce here, then what I believe is most likely to happen is that after that, you still go down and take them all out and punish them once again until they've all really had enough. And then the real fun begins. Let me check what's next. So long story short, I expect lower, and I do expect that it's good in the long run. I expect that to be leading into continuation of the bull run later on, and I don't see any signs for worry high time frame. I see signs for optimism and signs for a very nice healthy retracement that was needed, and that we can continue after the Trump inauguration with more moves to the upside. Other than that, the move doesn't hold a lot of surprises for us, because I don't know if I also mentioned that on Twitter or if it was only on Discord, but what I also said is then this move up, and let me check if I shared it here. No, I can't seem to find it. But what I said is that if we would have a small bounce up from the range low here, then I would expect that to be a deviation, a fake move, only to drop back down again, which also happened, right? So far, everything playing out beautifully. All right, so high time frame. Honestly, there's not much to say about it other than lower, right? If you ask me, very simply put, price is going to go lower. I mean, you have to be try not to get overconfident, right? Which is always the trap. If you see something play out this nicely, then the trap is always to become overconfident. But I'm quite certain that we're going to see lower. If you ask me where the low is going to be, well, let's entertain that question, shall we? I think time is more important. I think just anywhere below here, you would want to start DCAing into positions if there is still something you want to buy, right? That I know a lot of people are completely allocated, and then in that case, man, this is not the time to sell. I mean, I'm not selling, not financial advice, obviously, but so DCAing here is a good idea. But if not, and let me check some altcoins what they're doing. Let me see Dogecoin, because that's the one I'm interested in. Dogecoin is holding quite well, actually, but I'm just going to wait a little bit longer. Ethereum is dropping, so that's nice, because I'm looking for Ethereum and Dogecoin and maybe some other assets, but these are definitely the two main ones I'm watching. But they are dropping nicely. And then we go back to Bitcoin, because the reason I'm not charting alts at the moment is what I said last week. It's because Bitcoin is dominant, right? If Bitcoin goes up 3%, alts go up 3%. If Bitcoin drops 3%, Bitcoin alts drop 10%. That's just the market we're in right now. So my opinion was, if Bitcoin keeps dropping, alts will keep dropping as well, which is exactly what's happening. So naturally speaking, or like the logical conclusion is, if I would expect Bitcoin to keep dropping here, which I do, then also I'm looking for lower on alts as well. But let's entertain the idea of like, okay, where are we going to bottom, right? Where are we going to bottom? Let's check. So my main thesis on this whole thing was the market structure. I painted out on the 6th of January. And what I said was that right now we're in the retracement stage of this market structure right here, right? Of the weekly market structure. I said we're in the retrace stage and we need to put in a bottom, and the bottom will most likely be somewhere, in the week of the Trump inauguration. Now let's check. And what I then want to do is I'm going to take a fib from this one, not that one, but this one I'm more interested in. All right, so then I would expect at least 87K to be hit, actually. Don't shoot the messenger. Yeah, 80K I think is a little bit too much. No, it will definitely scare a lot of people. But 86, like the 0.382 of such a move, is not a weird target at all. In fact, it is the most, either the 382 or the 0.5 are the most the most important targets, the most high probability retracement targets. If I would have to choose one, in this particular scenario, I would definitely start loading up at the 382. 87K, not a weird level at all. Let's see if we can find some confluences. Not so much here in terms of volume. Let me see what I got. Periodic volume profile. I don't think we have any naked daily point of controls there. Nope. I mean, obviously you have this liquidity right here at 87K. 12-hour. Yeah, I mean, you have this fair value gap, but yeah, I would doubt that that's going to do much. We can look at it, actually. Let's look at that. Let's look at this fair value gap. Why not? Also take a look at that one. Well, I wouldn't. Well, let's see. We don't have to guess. I'm just going to look at statistics on that fair value gap. Whoops. Right, now we're going to dive into the realm of statistics. The thing we do best. All right, so let me see. I want to see. Nope, not weekly. Sorry, daily. I wanna this one. Oops. Yeah, no, I don't think this one matters much. It's been 62 days since we put it in, and you can see that, yeah, basically this is not a high probability area anymore to give any reaction whatsoever. I mean, it could give a reaction, but it's not the highest probability area. The one thing we can do to make sure is basically say, okay, what if they're bigger than, I don't know, 3%, because this one's 4.2% in size. So we filter for those. 55% of those would have had a reversal if we get a. Yeah, so it's not almost, so it is maybe more or less an interesting area to look at, right? So this low right here, but the first thing I think is that it seems a little bit too obvious, because I know everyone's going to be looking at that level. So I don't know if we'll actually reach that. But the 382, I would say yes, 87K. But so I'm just going to take that as my first level and see where we're at when that comes. Because it's also very much a matter of when do we get there, right? As you know, time for me is important. I'm looking at that low somewhere here. So, you know, if we would do this, then I would say, okay, we're probably going to go lower after. Whereas if we would do this, yeah, then I'm more inclined to say, okay, that was the bottom, and you know, full force long, and let's go up again. So that will really depend. But so the main level for me is now 87K. This is what I'm looking at, 87K. And I would not be surprised to see a small bounce here. But if we get a small bounce here, I would expect it. You know, even something like this is not impossible. But let's see how that plays out. Actually, we can already check something. We can already check something, guys. We can check. Let's get the pivot zones on there. See what the pivot zones are telling us. Pivot zones. Need to get the new ones in. Yeah, so we are seeing some bounces now, which is not weird. See what the weekly is saying. It's too early to look at the weekly. I don't want to look at the weekly. We see the daily lost a lot of exhausted. Let's see how exhausted they actually are. Meanwhile, I'm going to check what the weekly pivot zones are. Copy those, get them in. All right, let's take a look. So if we go further down, and you can see this 382 is a very nice target indeed. As you know, these pivot zones indicate where 80% of the weekly pivots get put in. 80% of the weekly pivots will get put in within this area. In this case, if it's a bearish week, 80% of the weekly lows will be put in here, and 80% of the weekly highs will be put in within this area. So if price indeed goes further down, then you're looking at targets within here. And then the first major target you're looking at, in my opinion, is that 382 that we just discussed. So now it also has some confluence with statistics. So I really like that level. The only thing I would caution for is that oftentimes when we see a massive Monday open move, you could see it, oftentimes you see it reverse. It's the same as what I always say in the daily. I prefer not to see a massive move like this. What is much better for continuation is, some structure like this. Whereas if you have a drastic move like this, then what often happens is this. This is what I warned for in this video, which happened there. Or at least, we took out the daily low actually. So not the best price action, in my opinion, for a continued move down. So I'm just gonna wait that out. There's nothing to do here anyway. There's no short to be had at the range lows. If anything, you're looking for longs, but in my opinion, I'm just playing the spot play. So I'm waiting patiently for lower because this is not my area of interest just yet. I want to see it go lower. And this is not me placing my targets lower and lower. This is just me sticking to the plan, right? Something a lot of people do is that, they have their long options here and they say, okay, when it gets here, I will long, and then it gets there and they keep on lowering it and lowering it. That's not what I'm doing. I've been saying for weeks now, I'm waiting for sub 90K, and I'm not in a rush because I do believe we're going to spend 1 or 2 weeks below it and then, rocket up from there. So I just expect this to take a while. I expect this to not become a massive S&P like this. I expect us to spend some time below it. So I'm just simply sticking to the plan. If we do see a bearish week this week, then this is an awesome target. And if anything, I would say that the bearish week is possibly more likely, because otherwise the next week starts at 20th of January, which is the inauguration. Yeah, I prefer to see a bearish week. I prefer to price already start spending some time below here this week. I think it would be better. It would make a little bit more sense as well. So that's the play I'm looking at. For me, the play will simply be to DCA when it happens, right? That's the play. All right, let's see what the daily is saying and what the session are saying. Pivot zones. But first, let me quickly check how exhausted everything really is. Daily and session pivot zones. There you go. Get the session on there as well. Yeah, so you can see that the daily already reached the end of the daily P2 zone. And you know that 80% of if the day is bearish, 80% of daily lows, same theory as just now, will be put in within this area right here in the daily P2 zone. So we're already almost there. We can see that further by checking, which means that, by the way, only 20% of days will see a displacement below here, and even less, 15 or 10% will see a significant displacement below there. The reason for that is simple. 80%, like here is 80% of the daily lows if the day is bearish, right? So daily P2s, but then the remaining 20% are in this area, right? So the first 80% is much more concentrated in an area than the remaining 20% is. But if it were to happen, then this is what you want the price to look like, right? I always say this many times. If you want to see displacement below here, then you want to put in the daily P1 close towards the daily open and price move down rapidly, right? That's how you can see it work. Is it something I would bet on right now? No, I would not. I would simply wait for lower, look for those accumulation plays down at those lows. So that's what I'm looking at now. But oh yeah, okay. So price is really exhausted. So let me just get the last 2-3 years instead. But what we can see here is basically we can see that, and let me give this a second to load. There you go. That a lot of assets had such significant moves to the downside that only 10% of days, 10 to 20% of days would have seen further displacement down, right? So we're seeing a very, very aggressive move down, and only 10 or 20% of days will see further movement down. So we're definitely getting at exhaust levels for the day, but for the week, it does seem lower is more likely. We can actually check that on some other assets. Let's just go through them. I mean, what are other assets doing on the weekly pivot zones? Seems that also are actually holding quite okay. Not too bad actually. Also are seemingly, relatively speaking, not holding too bad towards their normal price action, but it's still pretty bloody. Yeah, we got some room to go down, guys. We got some room. Remember that last week the pivot zones indicated the lows, because when you see quite some assets reaching that period, that's when you know, or that pivot zone. So for example, last week here we had that this is where we bottomed, because we had quite some assets that bottomed there. Weekly P2 zone low, so Atom, DOT, Ethereum, FTM, right? So that signals exhaustion, because once again, only 20% of assets would go down beneath that level. So that's also why I pointed out in my Discord, and I'll just show you that, why I pointed out in my Discord All right, can you hear me now? All right, I think it's working again. Is it working again? All right, nice. All right, so it's working again. So what I was saying is that we had a bottom here. This is what I said last week, because a lot of weekly assets were bouncing off the weekly P2 zones. And you know that only 20% of weeks will we see a significant move below these zones, right? So that's why it's a logical place to put in a weekly low. And what I also said last week is that I reminded everyone, just so that everyone knows, this is still my main idea. Bottom to be put in shortly after the Trump inauguration around January 25th, followed by the next impulsive move up, right? So this is still the same thing we have been looking at as well, basically the whole thing we just discussed. So everything going according to plan. Let's look at some pivot zones for the week for other important assets. Ethereum. Yeah, I mean the next important line in the sand is here. And after that seems a bit like a free fall. And you have this massive weekly fair value gap. Yeah, but once again, I don't want to spend too much time here because for me, once again, I'm looking at Bitcoin and I will determine where Ethereum will bounce if I determine that Bitcoin is going to bounce and you know where that is. So I'll just see what it does. But if you look at this, then this is an important level. And this whole fair value gap, I mean, it's massive, but that's in the weekly P2 zone. Let's look at Solana. Taking out the low. So this plan, I mean, it could still bounce from here. But no, it doesn't seem like this. I don't think it matters too much for your spot positions, but it seems that this one is not going to give the bounce we were hoping to see. The market too weak. The nice thing is, though, that we did say last week, okay, we're probably looking for a retracement. And then we were looking here for the initial retracement. Doesn't give a reaction. Once again, for me, it's very simple. I'm looking for Bitcoin to put in a low. As long as Bitcoin doesn't put in a low, Alts will not put in a low either. So far, I do think we can see more of a range-bound environment here on Solana, where you see something like this reclaim, where this just basically becomes the sideways range. Here, with this as the range low, deviation of the range high, I would say. Let's see if volume supports that. Yeah, volume kind of supports it, but we'll have to wait a bit. But once again, for me, it's very simple. If Bitcoin keeps dumping, alts keep dumping. It really is that simple. And I do believe Bitcoin keeps dumping. So I think alts are not at their lows yet. It's that simple. All right. Guys, I'm very sorry, but I got to run because this whole technical issue thing at the start lasted longer than expected. But I think my main plans are clear. I'm expecting lower prices to come. I'm waiting for price to spend sometime below 90K, 1 or 2 weeks as expected. I would expect in the immediate term, I wouldn't be surprised to see some form of bounce here, followed by more downside. So I don't think this is the bottom yet. I do think we need to spend quite some time below here before price gets back up again. And I do think that no matter what happens, the eventual direction after this, right? So after this will be up. So good times to come, in my opinion. And let's get that low in around the Trump inauguration. It would be a very nice play. And so far, it is playing out. But obviously, no place to short at range lows, right? That reminds me of one other thing. Let me just get one more thing going. Let me get one more thing going, and that is that I want to see. Actually, I want to keep that, and I want to see. Yeah. So this 382 is actually nice. This 382 is actually pretty nice. So this 87K level is pretty interesting. So let's see what happens here. You could see a similar, like here in the lower range. I said, okay, any bounce will probably be a relief bounce. And wow, it played out perfectly, actually. Played out really perfectly. Because what I was looking at was more or less this. But so you can see a similar thing now happening on the high time frame. Right, where any bounce will just be a relief bounce. But the one thing, though, is once again, yeah, I'm personally just going to wait for lower. That's the essence of it. Waiting for lower, guys. All right, guys, thank you very much for watching. Sorry again for the technical difficulties. I hope I still was able to lay out my ideas in the limited time I had. I want to thank you very much. We're going to keep patient. We're going to keep waiting for lower prices. And we're going to keep playing the market very well. And the next live stream is scheduled for Thursday. So I'll see you on that one. Once again, thanks for watching, guys. Hope you have an awesome week. Catch you on the next one. All right. Cheers, man.